Hello there, friends. It's Jimmy Maverick. Welcome to another edition of the Fantasy Maverick podcast, and it's time for the fantasy playoffs. I hope you got a lot of teams in there. We're going to talk about all the matchups this week, let you know who to start, who to sit. Got to say, not looking like a great week for fantasy. So we'll go into it right now, so let's check it out.
Listen up. It's time for the Fantasy Maverick podcast, starring the guy who's going to help you win that fantasy championship, Jimmy Maverick.
All right. Hello there, friends. It's Jimmy Maverick. Welcome to another edition of the Fantasy Maverick podcast. And it is time for the fantasy playoffs, man. I'm super excited about this. We've got no bye weeks this week, so we got a full slate of games. We also do have no Monday night game this week, so everything will be done on Sunday. So the first thing I want to say is when I talk about the games, I divide them into three categories. We've got fantasy graveyards, where it's limited fantasy production. We've got fantasy blowouts, where one team's going to do great, one game's going to do terrible. And then we have fantasy gold mines. Well, this week, I only have one game listed as a fantasy gold mine. That is a shockingly low number, but we've got lots of issues. There's lots of injuries. We've also got all these COVID outbreaks. It's just going to negatively impact most people's games. We also have some real defensive battles that are going to take place as well. So again, I think it's going to be limited fantasy production this week, but hopefully you've got the right teams for the right week. So given that there's only one gold mine game, I'm just going to talk about it because it's tonight's game. It's the Thursday night game, Chiefs at the Chargers. Chiefs currently favored by 3. The over-under is 52.5 points. This is shaping up that this could be a great fantasy game. So we all know about the struggles with the Chiefs, and I got to say, I still don't understand how that team scored 48 points last week, and yet Mahomes, Kelsey, and Hill all had subpar games. I don't know how it happened. Obviously, we know about the struggles of this team. It's been well documented this year, but again. He did, Mahomes did get over 20 points. And I said if Mahomes blew it, I would be benching him going forward. But I consider that he got over 20. Good enough, I guess. Good enough. Not really what you expect from Mahomes, but I can't say you need to sit him. He does get a pretty tough matchup. The Chargers are top 10 against the position, but it's Mahomes, right? And so the other big concern I have is with Hill. Hill has a bottom 2 matchup, but I just don't think you can sit him. You can't sit a player like that with the ceiling that he offers. But again, I think it could be another disappointing week for him. Last week I think he ended up with like 11 points or something like that. Very unremarkable. Could be a similar situation this week. That's a problem for those of you that took Hill in your game. The best matchups are for Kelsey and CEH. Both of them get a top 6 matchup. So obviously, I think that's where the production's going to go, and I think that's where the points are going to go. So that looks good. Darrell Williams, not really interested in starting him. I just don't see enough volume there for him to start, although he has seen an increased role. He did see an increased role last week, and he got a touchdown, which was very lucky. I don't anticipate that being something that's duplicated, so I would sit Darrell Williams. Now, on the Chargers side, Herbert gets a great matchup. In fact, the Chiefs defense is bottom 10 against the quarterback position. So good matchup for Herbert, and it's really kind of weird because the Chiefs against the receivers is one of the best in the league. So Keenan Allen and Mike Williams both have a bad matchup, but again, I can't sit either of them, and I think there's going to be opportunity here, and hopefully this game turns into a shootout. That's what I'm hoping for. But again, just know it's a bad matchup for those two players. Austin Eckler gets a good matchup, but he appears to be a game-time decision. So definitely watch his availability. If he does not play, though, I am very very much against starting any of the backfield because it just appears to be a three-way timeshare. It's just a mess. You don't want to mess with that. So that's where I'm at with those teams. So that's the only gold mine. All the rest are graveyards or blowouts, and I've got 6 games listed as fantasy graveyards. So let's just get into them right now. Again, these are games where it's going to be limited fantasy viability across the board. Not that many fantasy viable players, and even if they do play, it's going to be, maybe they'll do good, but it's just again, let's just get right to it. So the first game we got Raiders at the Browns Saturday. It's a Saturday game. Raiders currently favored by 1.5, but the over/under 38.5 points. That is very low scoring, and it's really not hard to see why. When you look at the Raiders, Waller is still probably out. He is still probably going to miss Week 15, and so that means Hunter Renfro must start. That dude is getting amazing volume right now. And as long as Waller is out, dude is a wide receiver 1. I mean, he has just been outstanding. And it's hard to not be outstanding when you're getting like 12 targets a game. So anyway, good for him. Hunter Renfro definitely a start. Josh Jacobs does have a tough matchup here. But I believe he'll get enough work to be fantasy viable, so of course you can start him. But that's it. That's it on the Raiders, those 2 guys. Now, the Browns is even worse. The Browns are just decimated with the COVID outbreak right now. Baker Mayfield, probably going to miss. You've got Jarvis Landry, going to miss with COVID. You've got Kareem Hunt out with an ankle injury. So they're really the only player you can play on the Browns right now is Chubb. And who knows? I mean, Chubb might go on the COVID list too. He's had close contact with all these guys. But obviously, if he plays, you can play him. If he does not play, D'Ernest Johnson, his backup would be the guy you can play instead. But you've got to monitor the situation and see what happens. I'm not sure that this game would be a game that would be postponed and rescheduled either. So we'll have to see what happens. The next graveyard game, this one's surprising, but hear me out, man. Patriots at the Colts. This is also on Saturday. Colts currently favored by 2.5. The over-under is 45. Why do people always call me when I'm trying to do these things? I don't get it. But anyway, as far as the Patriots, we know the Patriots are a very low-octane offense. They have been all season. They're not dominant through the air. They're not dominant on the ground. They're getting it done through the way they usually do. Fantastic defense, excellent special teams play, and, that's how it is. So as far as the running backs on the Patriots go, I think you got to sit them. It is a tough matchup. The Colts are top 5 against the run, so I think both Ramondre Stevenson and Damian Harris are sits because of that, although I understand if you'd want to start them as a flex play. But just the fact that they're split in time on a low-octane offense, they don't really get a lot of passing work. It just makes it hard to trust them, even if it was a good matchup. The best matchup for this game is Hunter Henry. And I love, obviously the guy has the ability to get touchdowns. He is actively looked at in the end zone by the quarterback, Mac Jones. Despite his terrible volume, I think you can absolutely take a chance on Hunter Henry this week. I think he will be a good choice for fantasy football. Jacoby Myers also looks to have a decent matchup here. Looks to be a good flex, but that's it. That's really all I can recommend for this team. Now, on the Colts side, obviously, you got the best running back in the league with Jonathan Taylor, but I got to say, man, this is the Patriots. That Patriots defense, absolutely legit on all phases. But you know how Bill Belichick coaches. Bill Belichick coaches to remove the top offensive weapon and make the team beat you somewhere else. That means we're going to be relying on Carson Wentz and his passing ability, which is already suspect. I mean, he's been good this year, better than most people expected, which is good to see, but he's not being like he was, when they did the Super Bowl run, right? He has not been anywhere near that. The receiving group is much more limited, so anyway, I'm not going to sit Jonathan Taylor. You're going to play him, but just know that this is an outcome here. This is something where Jonathan Taylor could be completely taken out of this game, and they just play to stop the run every single play and say, okay, Carson Wentz, you beat us through the air. I think that's what's going to happen. Now, as far as for the Colts, who would I play? Obviously, Michael Pittman does get a tough matchup, but again, I think they're going to have to pass the ball, so he should get decent volume. He should be good, and that is it, man. I would not recommend starting anyone else on the Colts. So there's where we're at with that one. Next game, oh, God. The fact that this game has to be played twice this year is just abysmal. Texans at the Jaguars, Sunday early. Jaguars favored by 4. The over-under is 39.5 points. Obviously, the best news this morning was the fact that Urban Meyer has been fired. That is the best news I could hope for, but I would not expect for any miracle bounce back by this team. This team is beaten down, and they suck. And it's still the same crummy coaches that are there that have been inexplicable. So as far as this team goes, when we're looking at the Jaguars, James Robinson is dealing with multiple ailments right now. So I'm not really interested in starting him because I'm not sure he can play a full game. And I can't recommend starting anyone else on this team because we don't know what the usage is. Again, they've just been stupid bonkers with how they've been distributing the ball. It's impossible to know who's going to get the volume, and really no one's getting any volume. It's like 6 targets here, 4 targets there, 3 targets there. You can't play that for fantasy football. So there's really nobody that I can recommend on the Jaguars to start right now. Even Carlos Hyde, if James Robinson is out, it's not a great matchup regardless. For the Texans, the only player I would start is Brandon Cooks. He got 11 targets last week. Obviously, the few weeks before that, he was getting, I think he got 2 targets and 4 targets and 5 targets. So we really don't know what his usage is. But again, I think he's going to be good enough as a flex play. You can play him that way, and I think he should be okay. The next game that I have listed as a graveyard, Titans at the Steelers. Titans currently favored by 2. Over-under is 41.5 points. And as far as the Titans go, obviously all their offensive weapons are completely devastated right now. Donta Foreman did get 15 touches and targets last week. So that means I would be comfortable putting him in as a flex. But I don't trust Julio yet. He only got 6 targets last week. And I'm just inclined to sit everyone else. The Steelers defense is pretty good. And there's just not a lot of high-caliber offensive weapons on this team. Now, on the flip side, you got the Steelers. And as far as the Steelers go, we've got some, you got your must-starts. Najee Harris, Deontay Johnson, both must-starts. They both get immense volume. But just know, Najee is facing a team that's ranked number 2 against the run. So a very solid defense. The receivers do get a better matchup. I actually do like Chase Claypool as well. I think they're both going to be decent. Pat Freiermuth is a risky start with his volume, but in the past 3 weeks, 2 touchdowns and a 2-point conversion. The guy knows how to score in the end zone, so I'd be willing to start him. He's just like a Hunter Henry as far as I'm concerned. He's got that touchdown upside, but if he does not get you a touchdown, he's going to get you 3 points. That's how it's going to be. Big Ben looks to be another streamable option this week because of the passing game and the matchups there. So I do kind of like him. I think he can get you 20 points. So that makes him a streamable option. So there you go with that game. Almost done here with the graveyards. Next graveyard, Washington at the Eagles. This is a Sunday early game. Eagles favored by 7. The over-under is 44 points. The best thing to say about Washington is that they do get a top 10 matchup for the running backs. So Antonio Gibson and J.D. McKissick, who I hear is coming back this week, both could be good choices. Again, with J.D. McKissick back, that hurts Antonio Gibson, but Antonio Gibson has been getting really good volume. He's been very productive. So I figure he's going to maintain some sort of a more prominent role than he was before the injury to McKissick. McLaurin gets a bottom 10 matchup, and he has had terrible volume the past few weeks. So he's a sit until we see otherwise. You can't trust starting someone that's only getting 4 or 5 targets a game. It just doesn't work. So anyway, go with that. On the Eagles side, Hurts should be back in peak form. He faces a defense which is number 1 for opposing quarterbacks. So Hurts is going to be great. He's going to be just fine. Absolutely a startable player. But I'm just not thrilled with any of his receivers or the tight ends. They do have good matchups, but again, nobody's been getting volume. That's the problem. There's no decent volume going to anybody, and that just makes them very risky. So I'm not inclined to use them, even though it is a good matchup. So if you want to take a chance on Goddard or what is it, Devonta Smith, you can. I'd be more inclined to start Goddard, but Devonta Smith is just on my bench. You can't trust a player like that right now with the volume they're getting. Backfield, complete mystery. I heard that Jordan Howard is probably going to be back. So you're really rolling the dice by starting anyone. If all 3 or 4 of these guys are healthy, they're just not going to give enough to any one player to make them fantasy viable. And obviously the one I would most likely want to start is Miles Sanders. But again, you are really rolling the dice with this backfield. It's just you can't trust it. There's no consistency to who is getting the majority of the work in this backfield. So that's where I'm at with that. Final graveyard game is the Broncos at the Bengals. Broncos currently favored by 3. Over-under is 44 points. For the Broncos, the only thing I trust about this team are the running backs. Both Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams, I think, are startable here. The most targets any receiver got on this team last week was 6 by Jerry Jeudy, which is below my threshold. I like to see receivers with at least 7 targets to want to start them. He's below that, and he's been below that, as have all the other receivers. You can't start him, so just bench him. Now, the Bengals obviously are a better team and have better offensive weapons. But the Denver defense is tough matchups all around. Obviously, I am going to start Joe Mixon, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins, but I would temper my expectations as the Broncos defense is very good against those positions. So anyway, there you go with that. So let's move on to the blowouts. And on the blowouts, I've got 8 games that are blowouts right now. It's just like there's a stratification happening right now on the teams. So let's just get to it. So the first blowout, Cowboys at the Giants. Sunday early game, Cowboys favored by 10.5. Over-under is 44.5 points. As far as the Cowboys go, you're going to start your stars. You're going to start CeeDee Lamb. You're going to start Amari Cooper. You're going to start Dak Prescott, of course. Zeke Elliott, again, very risky. He is not getting the volume that you would expect him to get. He is injured. They have not allowed him to just rest and heal. So he's been terrible the past couple of weeks, and I expect that to continue. And he's going to have his work cut into him now. Now Pollard is out, but they had – who do they have? They had someone else in there. I can't think of the name of the player, but who got more touches than Zeke did last week. So I would probably put Zeke in as a flex option, but you just really have to temper your expectations with him, despite the great matchup. For the Giants, at this point, the only player you can start is Saquon. He's the only one with any fantasy value, and that's it. Then we've got the Jets at the Dolphins. Dolphins currently favored by 10. The over-under is 42 points. The Jets, I can't recommend starting anyone on this team, but Jamison Crowder has the best matchup. So if you need to start a receiver, and Jamison Crowder is the only guy you got, you could put him in as your flex, but he has been below that 7 target per game threshold, which makes him a very risky start. On the Dolphins side, the best matchup you're going to see is Mike Kosicki, who does get the best matchup, but his volume has been all over the place. Past 4 weeks, 7 targets, 6 targets, 3 targets, 11 targets. So just know that, but I do think he is startable, should be a tight end 1 this week. Waddle has been fantastic this season, but he actually gets the toughest matchup. The Jets are top 7 against the pass. Plus, I do anticipate this is going to be a positive game script for the Dolphins, so they're going to lean more on the running game, especially in the second half if they take a big lead. So that's something you just need to consider. Devante Parker is a sit until I see better volume from him. And as far as the backfield of the Dolphins, again, I just hate it. I don't want to start any of those guys. It's such a mess. And even though I just said positive game script, they're probably going to run the ball in the second half. You got to take it with a grain of salt, and maybe you don't want to start those backfield elements for this game. Next game, Cardinals at the Lions. Cardinals currently favored by 13. The over and under is 47 points. So again, this should be a massive blowout. Obviously, the Lions are just packing it in at this point. Hawkinson and Swift are probably both going to miss week 15. There is an opportunity here to start some of these lesser players. You got players like Josh Reynolds or Amon-Ra St. Brown or Craig Reynolds, the running back. All of them looked really good last week with these other players out. So I think if you're desperate, I think that you can start them. I think they can be startable this week. They're obviously going to have to pass the ball a lot, as they will be way behind the Cardinals. For the Cardinals, we got Hopkins is going to be out. So that means that Christian Kirk absolutely can be started. He's been great when Hopkins has been out. He's gotten great volume. He's been very good. Zach Ertz should also benefit from Hopkins being out, so I think he is a start as well. James Conner looks like a game-time decision, and if it was up to me, I would hold him out this week. Let him get healthy, man. You've got a chance that Chase Edmonds is going to make it back this week. I would not start Chase Edmonds if he is able to, but hopefully they will let James Conner rest and get better, heal from his ailments for week 16. But if he plays, I think you got to start him. I think he's going to get a lot of volume. Next blowout game, Panthers at the Bills. Bills currently favored by 10.5. The over-under is 44.5 points. For the Panthers, the only player I would start is DJ Moore. Robbie Anderson is a risky pick, even though he got 12 targets last week. But it's just he's one of those players with the uneven usage. You never know what it's going to be on a week-to-week basis. Those aren't the players that I play for season-long fantasy football. On the Bills, we've got no easy matchups here. The Panthers' defense is good, but obviously you start Josh Allen, you start Stephon Diggs, they're auto starts, and I think Dawson Knox is absolutely a start. He's got the best matchup on this team. Cole Beasley is startable, good matchup, but again, he's another one of those players that just is like Robbie Anderson, very uneven in his usage, so it makes him very risky. The Falcons at the Niners on Sunday afternoon. Niners currently favored by 9. The over-under is 45.5 points. For the Falcons, Kyle Pitts is facing a top 3 defense against the position. So I actually think that Pitts is a sit this week. I know if you have Pitts, you're probably going to need to start him. So there you go. Just don't expect much out of him. Cordarrelle Patterson is really the only player that I could say, go ahead and start him. I think everyone else is a sit. Just based on how I think this game is going to go, which is, again, a blowout. For the Niners, I don't see any sits here. Debo's been primarily operating as a running back right now. So obviously Debo, Kittle's been killing it, Ayuk, and then Eli Mitchell, if he can play, obviously you can start him, but that's it. I think Garoppolo is a great streaming option at quarterback as well on this game. Next blowout game, Seahawks at the Rams on Sunday afternoon. Rams favored by 4.5, over under 45.5 points. This kind of surprised me. It seems very close for this particular game, but whatever. Russell Wilson has been looking better each week. He does face a top 7 defense against the position. So, again, I think he'll be fine. I think he's going to get you 20 points. So I think you can start him. And I do like his receivers. I know Metcalf has been awful just been awful. But he has gotten 8 targets in each of the past 2 games. That makes him startable. And then as far as Lockett, I always say Lockett will give you 8 good games every season. And guess what? That's what he's giving you this year. He's giving you 8 good games. So that means it was up to me, I'd sit him. But unfortunately, I have to play him in one of my playoff games this week. So I am going to start him. But just know, that's what Lockett does. That's what he does to you. He'll give you 8 good games. And he's already done that. So he might be done for the season. That's just how it works. Backfield, obviously, Rashad Penny was fantastic last week. And as long as he's healthy, you can play him. That's what it comes down to. It's amazing that he's actually finally, after 4 years in the league, that he's finally healthy. And maybe right now he's trying to say, I got to do something or else no one's going to pick me up on a contract next year. And so there he goes. And he goes out and he does something. So anyway, go ahead and start him. For the Rams, Seattle is top 10 against quarterbacks and wide receivers. So definitely sit Cooper Kupp. Of course, I'm kidding. You never sit Cooper Kupp. I think Matthew Stafford, I don't think you can sit him either. I think it's a great offense. OBJ probably going to miss this week. So Van Jefferson, very tempting, but because of the matchup, and last week he only got 3 targets. Luckily, he got that huge long bomb for a touchdown, so his line looked really good. But just know that I would be inclined to sit him, even if OBJ sits, just because of the tough matchup. Let's see here. Who else do we? Henderson may be back this week again. If he's cleared from COVID protocol, he is a start. If he is not cleared, Sony Michel is a start. That's all you need to know. Next blowout game, Packers at the Ravens on Sunday afternoon. Packers favored by 5.5, over under 43.5. Again, surprising line. I think it would be. I thought it would be more for the Packers, especially since Lamar Jackson is probably going to miss. And so, but let's talk about the Packers first. Ravens D is top 6 against running backs. So as far as I'm concerned, you never sit Aaron Jones. You can play Aaron Jones, but I would sit A.J. Dillon. I don't think he's going to be a good choice for this particular matchup. Now, of course, Rodgers and Adams every week starts, and Marquez Valdes-Scantling has been all over the place with usage. We've already talked about these guys, but he offers a really high ceiling. So I think as a flex, as a desperation flex, you can put him in there and go for it, and hopefully he has a big game. Now, on the Ravens side, you can start Marc Andrews. You can start Hollywood Brown. They both got decent usage even after Jackson went out last week. So that's reassuring. And Devonta Freeman, I think, just remains a start just because of the nature of this nature of this offense, that they will get enough volume to be fantasy relevant. So that's it with those games. Next blowout game, Saints at the Buccaneers. The Bucs favored by 11. The over-under is 46.5 points. Again, it seems low. I think this is something where the Saints could score 46.5 points. It's very easy for the Saints. The only players you can start, Taysom Hill, Alvin Kamara. Everyone else is a sit. For the Bucs, everyone's a start again. Brady, Godwin, Evans, all have great matchups. That's awesome to see. The Saints are number 1 against the run, but I'm not benching Fournette either. You got to play him. Gronk also faces a tough defense, but his volume has been awesome and amazingly consistent. 8 or 9 targets a game right now over the past 4 weeks now. So unbelievable. Just go ahead and start him. He's going to be fine. And I think that's it. Yeah, that's it. That's all the games this week. So again, I think it's going to be lower scoring than most weeks. Just because of the uneven nature of the matchups this week. But anyway, good luck for Week 15. I hope you advance. In my one league, in the 94 Rock League, I managed to get myself to 5th place. I won my final game of the season. I moved into 5th place, and the playoffs come off. And who do I have to play? I ended up this season, I was 3rd overall in points. So this is an excellent team. I love my team. But the 2 teams that I have to play in our bracket are the 2 teams that scored more points than me this season. So I have a huge uphill battle in order to make it to the championship game. And it starts this week. I'm already an underdog by about 6 or 7 points. So I need things to go my way. I need, I need Stafford. I need Kamara. I need, who are some of the other players on this team? I need Lockett. I mean, all these high-risk guys. I mean, all these guys I just told you, very risky, and they're probably they got tough matchups this week. Of course, they're all on my team. So we'll just have to see what happens. But anyway, thank you very much for watching. Thanks so much for sticking this out, watching the whole thing. Good luck in Week 15. We will be back. I got to let you know, I will have a start and sit late for Week 16. It'll probably come out on Thursday or Friday just because I'm going to be out of town and I'm not going to be able to do it when I normally do. So anyway, thanks so much. Have yourself a great week. Good luck, and we'll talk to you soon.